Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient, natural, divine heirs. All rise and stand. This is a sovereign, ancient, Article 3, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American Concept for Action. I am sovereign living justice. Pauline Denise Ritchie, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light to Jerry Bay, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. So today we have two topics that we're going to discuss. The first topic being the two different levels of our sovereign jurisdiction, because we need to have clarity as we move forward, because we're moving forward into commerce, sovereign, goal-backed commerce, and we're also moving forward at law. And those two are actually synonymous. They're one and the same. And so we want to talk about the principles and the law with regard to sovereign commerce and our courts, and knowing the difference between what was going on in the past and what should be happening now and what is happening now. So there are two. First of all, there's only one jurisdiction on our land. There's only one. There are not all these other jurisdictions. There's only one. We are the sovereign supreme jurisdiction, which is the original, indigenous, ancient, natural, divine, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American jurisdiction. We are that. This is going to be important where commerce is concerned, specifically, because this is one of the pieces that we were missing before, where we thought everyone in commerce was equal, okay, and everyone was the same. We are the sovereign supreme part of our whole sovereign supreme jurisdiction, and then there are the citizens, okay, who are the subject part of and they are within our sovereign supreme jurisdiction. Okay, so citizens, and they are the subject portion or part within our sovereign supreme jurisdiction. As a whole, we are a sovereign and plus a subject, lawful body, land, and estate. So our estate consists of the sovereigns and the subjects and all property. We should always be expecting and observing and looking around now that our third eye is open and it's becoming our first eye. And it has become our first eye. We should be looking around to see the signs that make that clearer. Because before we did not see that there was any difference between us and them, except that, you know, we thought we were black and they were treating us very poorly. Okay, now it's the opposite. We're looking to see and to ensure that the signs between the citizen subjects and the sovereigns are clear, because there is a difference within, and all are under our jurisdiction. So the most effective way to command that the signs be clearer between us and them, and it's not an us and them in an oppositional way, it's an us and them as in two parts of one whole. And the most effective way to command that the signs be clear is to be yourself and state your sovereign status at all times. Instead of, you know, like before we would go back and forth between the two, we should always be ourselves, no matter what's going on. We are the sovereign supreme jurisdiction, so no matter where we go, our blood goes with us. We don't leave the bloodline anywhere else. Our blood is not back there with us being up here, or, you know, vice versa. And the blood is not separate from us, so it's not being given to anyone who doesn't have it. Our blood goes with us everywhere we go. Therefore, our sovereign, supreme jurisdiction is inherent within us. So it goes where we go, no matter where we go. And then all citizens and subjects are under our sovereign, supreme, ancient jurisdiction and protection. And the citizens' affairs right now are currently generally being handled by their own public servants. Our consular venues are for issues that arise between the sovereign and the citizen subject. That's what our consular venues are for. Okay. Can you all hear me? Okay. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Islam. And so we are in transition, as you all know. We're in transition right now. And our court actions, we're transitioning our court actions to be all-inclusive, okay, all-inclusive, which will cover both consular issues, which are diversity issues, diversity of citizenship, diversity of nationality, and general court actions where diversity is not an issue, so between the heirs and between other nations of heirs. Moors must always proclaim our proper status and never claim citizen status. No matter what is being given to the citizens, we must be ourselves so that it is clear which jurisdiction is being asserted. The difference in the levels of our all-inclusive sovereign supreme jurisdiction are being made far more evident first by us and then by the citizens as we continue to stand, okay? And I'll give you just one example of that right now. This is a return receipt that I received here at this consulate at Federal Way, Washington Reservation Territory. That was received, it was sent out, and I will say this. I don't know who sent it. It came from one of you. One of the Moors out there sent out some documents to the one, Ron DeSantis in Florida, who is the quote-unquote governor. And we, you know, we don't mind if Moors put that their confirmations or affirmations of receipt come here. We don't mind that. We don't always get an opportunity. We don't always know who sent them, but there have been many that have come here. The green return receipt for a certified parcel that was sent. Okay, this is part of that. And in fact, this is the entire green return receipt that was sent out. And then on the rear, they put that it comes here. So whoever sent this one out, we did receive it back, your affirmation from them stating that they received your document. But thank you, whoever sent this out. Thank you for your sovereign demonstrations, because the demonstration that you sent out, among others, I'm sure other Moors have sent out demonstrations as well of this nature. But the demonstration that you sent out, they specifically delineated that it was received by the Office of the Governor, Citizen Services. Why is that important? That is important because whenever, and that was actually the right place for it to go because it was a command that was sent out by affidavit, I'm sure, and this I just feel in my spirit. I didn't see the documents. I don't know what they look like. I don't know what they said. And I still don't know who sent them because all I did receive was this green return receipt. But the point being, now that we have been standing, okay, all Moors, now that we've been standing, we're seeing now that there is a difference between us and the citizens are following our lead in making the difference between us and them and stating the difference between us and them, okay? Previously, things like this, we would get things like this back and it would just say governor's office or, mail room of the governor's office or something like that, as if there was no difference between us and them. And now it's saying Office of the Governor, Citizen Services. That means that there are some services otherwise. Aside from citizen services, there has to be other services. And again, as I stated here, there's only one jurisdiction on our land, and it is the sovereign jurisdiction. The sovereigns are one part of that jurisdiction, the superior, supreme part of that jurisdiction. The citizens are the subject part of that jurisdiction. Okay? So the more we state who we are, the more they will state who they are. So they're letting us know who they are. Okay? And we know who they are. We also, but that's because now we know who we are. So I wanted to point that out and say just a couple of things also about citizen subjects and our sovereign status and all that entails, okay? Because this affects commerce, it affects our courts, it affects everything. This document on the screen is actually proof of diversity. It is proof. It is acknowledgement that there is diversity. First, it's in blue. As we've been stating, we do everything that we do in red. They do what they do in blue. And then there are some other changes that will take place there. There will be more divergence there. Okay. So we are in transition, and the divergence, the splitting, the transition is being made. And any splitting or duality of any kind is not a tearing apart of the vast estate. In fact, it is oneness in the vast estate. Okay? So sovereign affairs are always solved in our courts and our courts alone. Okay? Moors must always proclaim their proper status and never claim citizen status, and the difference in the levels of our all-inclusive sovereign supreme jurisdiction is sovereign and citizen. Those are the levels. And then within those levels, there are other subsets in those levels where the citizens are concerned. What is the difference between a citizen and a subject? Let's make that distinction. And if you want to add something in the chat with regard to that, yes, Justice in the chat, Justice Yezreel, the lines of distinction between statuses are being made clearer, and it was only a matter of time. All we had to do was do what we're doing and keep doing it, and let them know that under no circumstances, even under threat, duress, and coercion, we're going to be ourselves. And again, we're never under anything, including threat, duress, and coercion. There's no such thing as threat, duress, and coercion when we're in our proper status and the corporate ties are cut. Number one, because God is God no matter what. We are God no matter what. The subjects are the subjects no matter what. And subjects in their proper status do not threaten the heirs. And they're aware of that. And anytime you feel more like someone might be threatening or the threatening program is running, just ask. Because again, this is how we do court action. Do a court action and then ask, are you threatening me? Just ask and watch the response. But that question should be asked under, by court action. No one threatens the sovereign. No one. So the difference between a subject and a citizen is thus. A citizen is a subject among the common people and does not have a specific function on our land as designated by us. So there are some who come here and they just come here because they want to be here on the land, experiencing the freedom of our land, knowing that it is our land. Okay. A subject is generally given the name subject, which follows their designation as given by us. Okay. So where subjects are concerned, for example, you all heard the term a royal subject. That is actually a real term. It's not an office, as it were. It's not an office. It is a term. A royal subject is one who has a specific function on our land as designated by us. And then that's what a royal subject is one who has a specific function on our land as designated by us. Now, what's the difference between, let's make the lines even clearer. Royal subjects are citizens. Okay, royal subjects are citizens. Because remember, there's only two designations within our sovereign jurisdiction. Either you're the sovereign or you're the citizen. So royal subjects are citizens who work specifically for us. That's what a royal subject is. And see, that's where they get their title of or their status of royal subject. Okay, the one that was doing business as queen over there is actually she was a royal subject to the Moors. Always subject to the Moors, always. Okay? They work, and this is the distinction, they work by our sovereign command and not by a three-dimensional contract. Islam in proportion to the power that used to be. Yes, Justice Jeremiah, that's good. He said that the subjects are demons, and it's not in the way of evil, demon, it's not that. That is, demon is actually a term, look it up. They are lesser gods, but it's not God in the way that we are. In other words, a royal subject is one who they're designated as a royal subject by us, as opposed to just a regular subject, a regular citizen subject. Okay? Now, an example of a royal subject, and you'll start to notice this, it would be someone like, well, I don't want to say any names of any royal subjects because I want you to start looking so that you can point them out. And I'll give you a hint. Generally, if it is a male royal subject, they'll be wearing a purple tie. Generally, or some purple somewhere. some splash of purple somewhere. The citizens they write in blue. That's what citizens, that's how we know when we look at documents whether it is the sovereign or the citizen, is the sovereigns use red, the citizens use blue, the corpses use black, the royal subjects use purple. Okay? And our royal subjects do sign in gold. They are subject to us that way. Okay? And then we write in red, which is the real gold. And again, royal subjects work for us by our sovereign command, not by a three-dimensional contract. And when I say three-dimensional contract, they don't work for us by way of us sitting down contracting with them. No, you don't contract with subjects. You give them commands by affidavit. You contract with equals, other moors, other sovereigns, that's what sovereignty is. And the reason I use the term three-dimensional contract is because our subjects, we have, I could call it a contract, but not really, that predates our manifestation in this dimension. So before they ever came here, they knew they were going to be subjects when they got here. Yes, writs and affidavits. Writs and affidavits. Yes. So our commands, when we give them, and this is why we keep stressing to speak by affidavit, so that you, Moors, put them in subject status. You raise them from the dead and put them in subject status. That is our responsibility. That's our responsibility. And if it's not done by court action, then as you can see from past things, they tend not to listen. Because then you're trying to talk to a corpse who can't hear. The only way corpses will be able to hear is all rise and stand. That's why they kept doing all of these movies about The Walking Dead. It was a hint. It was a hint. So that is, again, start looking around your territories, and you may see one or two delineations being made by them over the next 30 days or more. You may see more delineations being made by them. But if you go back and start listening to them really with open ears, you will hear they've actually been making the delineation the whole time. Everything that they've done has been for citizens only. It has never been for the heirs. Never. Because, why? We've never been citizens, period, from day one. We've never been citizens. We've always been the sovereign. And that is why we have to continue moving in the manner that we're moving right now. So, having said that, that brings us to our next topic, because we have been putting forth our gold-backed Moorish sovereign dollarium, and we want to be we're going to delve into the study of how to use the dollarium. Okay. In the past, we have heard Moors say when we first initially put the gold standard, announced or proclaimed the gold standard on the public record, which again, the gold standard never went anywhere because we've been here the whole time. But when we first initially proclaimed the gold standard, and then we did the $666 trillion document, Moors began doing what Moors do best. going out and demonstrating their sovereign status. And even as far back as then, which was in 2019, Moors were letting us know that the hybrids were saying, well, we accept what you're saying, but you need to show us how to use this. Okay. You need to show us how to use. We accept liens and all of that stuff, but it's in a currency, and we don't know how to use it. That means we needed to get our competencies up on how to use our own money. So it is each and every one of us, it is each one of our responsibility to be competent to command the protocols on the proper use of our lawful gold-backed money. And that is another place where study comes in. But we must know who we're dealing with here on our land when we begin to use the Moorish sovereign dollarium. We have to know that there are two levels, two parts to our whole sovereign jurisdiction, and there's really three parts. And that third part manifests in the spirit realm. Okay, so we do everything in threes or more. Okay, so there are well, let me say this. As we begin to move in international commerce, each of the basic principles that we've been emphasizing are now front and center. And when I say each of the basic principles, again, we're just building on what we've done in the past already. Okay? What we've done in the past is name change and judicial proclamation, termination of all corporate contracts, and that is going to be key because it makes the distinction in all that you do, including commerce and law, between the sovereign and the citizen subject. Okay? The sovereign and the citizen subject is going to be, those distinctions are front and center right now, even in all that we do. And now we see that they are doing the same thing. They're saying, okay, we're citizens. The one doing business as Ron DeSantis is a governor of the citizens, not of the Moors. Okay? So the basic principles, again, name change, judicial proclamation, termination of corporate contracts, lien, court action, and then command. Those 6 principles, in red in all lowercase letters, as given by the Moors and placed on the public record, is how everything else that happens is going to happen. All commerce, everything. Because your name change and judicial proclamation designate in the minds of those that you're dealing with where in the estate you are. Okay? Are you the sovereign or are you the citizen subject? And because you have your own money, that makes you the sovereign. And the reason why the money is done the way that it's done, where each Moor can print out what they need, is because, again, your money must originate with you. So you print it out and use it. You're in control of that because you're sovereign. You know, some have been looking for some central something to hand them something, and not hand them something, but to issue something. You're it. You are the issuing bank of your money. And that's why we're going to go into much further study over the next, days, months, weeks, years on how to use our money. And we're going to be looking at it from a lawful perspective, using some documents that are already out there. Generally, the document that we're going to use today is a corporate document, but as we know, our prophet said that the European will be left here long enough to teach us how to govern, and that's what we're doing now. So there are a few principles that we must all know as we proceed into commerce. The first principle is that all commerce is law. Therefore, all commerce is a court action. And this is proven whereby commerce ends up, it is proven by where commerce ends up in the event that the agreements or contracts become controversial. Let me say it that way. Okay? So whenever there is disagreement or conflict in commerce, where does it end up? It always ends up in court. That is why our own courts were so important. Our teachers, and specifically our grand chief, Tariq Bey, has been saying the consular venue. He's been stressing that. We have to, that comes from the Moors. Or else our commerce cannot be done. It will always be what it's, what we're out of now, which is whenever we had conflicts previously, we would take it to the fake court, and what would the fake court do? Rule in the favor. It would rule in the favor of wherever the fiat came from and those who were using the fiat. We can rule in our own favor lawfully, because it's our money. Okay? So, number 2, before any commerce is commenced, proper identities must be established. That is the rule for every court action. That's where jurisdiction is asserted. And not just asserted, but that is the law where jurisdiction is concerned. Jurisdiction, in order for the law to be properly executed, the law must first be established. Proper identification of all parties. And that is the same thing in commerce. Number 3, all commerce that is not between two publicly proclaimed Moors, and we say trust but verify. In other words, they need to have their documents on the public record, or at least show Moorish American ID. Okay, and that's going to be key down the road, because there are some who look like us that prefer to be in citizen status. Well, then they have to, that identity must be properly proclaimed, because then that's going to put them in an inferior position where contracting and all of that is concerned. And we don't, again, we speak by affidavit. When we're discussing commerce, we don't contract with subjects. We speak by affidavit to them. Contracts come in where equals come together at the table. All commerce that is not between two publicly proclaimed Moors is an international commercial event. That brings in a whole other, that brings in all status, brings in all law in all jurisdictions where that is concerned. And it starts with the sovereign supreme law for the land. And in a video that we did about probably 6 months ago, it was regarding how all commerce was going to have to be done by the Moors. We stated in that video that even, yes, in the chat, that even when, if it's something as simple as calling AAA to get a tire changed on the side of the road, if you call AAA and AAA has not proclaimed on the public status that they are a gold-backed company and that they accept gold-backed currency, then it's an international event. and any conflict must be brought to an Article 3 consular court. And who is the Article 3 consular court? The Moors. Number 4, all sovereign Moorish American affidavits always command, and this is what we're going to talk about today, always command that the closing component of all commerce be executed in gold-backed lawful Moorish sovereign dollarium, or gold-backed currency. It could be gold-backed United States dollars. This, and in the chat, Justice Jezreel says, this has always been about status and not about personalities. Absolutely, absolutely. So in commerce, there is a component that we have known, but we didn't think it applied to us. Okay, that component in closing, because we talked about real estate and and the closing of real estate and all of that, where our Empress Shade did an awesome job in putting forth the that whole contracting piece where real estate is concerned. And there is a portion of all contracting that is called closing, okay? And in that closing component, and we can go back and look at some of those documents that the foreigners had put out there. And when you look at the super fine print, it's always going to mention something about the type of money used. In every closing component of every contract, there is a component that states, or a part that states, the type of currency that can be used. And when I say can be, the parties have to agree on that before you contract. Before you contract. But even out there, and we're going to prove that right now, even out there in what was previously going on in the Piscean era commerce, which is United States Corporation Company commerce, there was a component as given to them by the Securities and Exchange Commission that they were under, and it's a corporation too, again, that they're under us, but there's a component by them that says that there's a currency component to all contracts, and that the parties should agree on that prior to calling the contract, prior to putting the contract and calling the contract. Puts and calls, those are financial terms, and in the document that we're about to look at now, the definition of that will be given. It's very vague because it's given by the corporates and they don't want you to know the difference, so you're going to have to do your study. But let's look at this document. The document is the Corporate Securities and Exchange Commission document. Here's the link to it, and I'm going to put that link in the chat so that you all can look at it, because it's a master document, and when I say master according to them, not us. We're the master of our document. But let me put this in the chat so that you can look at the document, and then we'll show it to you. Okay, this document, let me put it on the screen. Okay. It's called a Foreign Exchange and Options Master Agreement by and among Morgan Stanley Capital. We talked about capital. This is a Foreign Exchange and Options Master Agreement, or FEOMA. And this master agreement, I know that on the screen the writing is small. That's why I put the link to it in there. And we'll also, for those who are seeing this after the meeting, we'll put this link in the description under the video on YouTube. But we want to take a look at it because we're talking now about how to use Moorish sovereign dollarium. And we want to point out some things in contracting that, again, they have always known that whoever it is that's doing the contracting has the authority to proclaim what type of currency they want to use. The word currency is mentioned 186 times in this document. Okay. So now let's look at just a few of these definitions here. Base currency. Base currency is, it says, as to a party, means the currency agreed to as such in relation to it in Part 7 of the schedule. Okay, and again, we dictate the schedule. We put in any schedule that you see out there, we can put it in red in all lowercase letters and tailor it according to our sovereign will. Okay. And then here I want us to take a look at business day, because they delineate business day here based on the delivery method of the currency. Now, if they're talking about delivery of currency in this master document, that means that somewhere somebody is delivering some currency or bringing in some currency from somewhere based on the agreement. That tells me that we can bring our currency too. We have the only gold-backed currency. Now, when we go to do things with Moorish sovereign dollarium, there are some preparations that must be made by us before we proceed. Our documents must always precede us. That means they go before us. So before we ever show up, the documents are already there. And those documents should always remove the corporate covering off of whoever it is that we're dealing with. It should always do that if we're not dealing with other sovereigns. Okay. And then other sovereigns that we deal with should have their corporate covering removed as well, so that they don't bring into the contracting any corruption. And when their corporate covering is removed, then they won't be looking for fiat. They'll be looking for real money and not that fake monopoly fiat. Okay? If I'm doing business with another sovereign, and that sovereign still is got some citizen stuff going on the side, and let's just say I give that sovereign some sovereign credits into their bank account. When I give them the sovereign credits, when I convey the sovereign credits, if they have corporate contracts, guess what? I will have conveyed the gold-backed sovereign money, but then some corporate somebody will have reached in and pulled from the resources or blocked them so that the citizen can't get it. The corporate can't get it, rather. The corporate. That's why we need to be doing business with other Moors who are sure or certain that they have leaned the straw and leaned that fake Social Security number. So that when you convey the credit, the credits aren't taken, and then they're saying, well, I never received anything. You never paid me. I never received anything. We are going to have to start ensuring as we proceed, and again, we're speaking now into all that has to do with us in commerce coming up here in using our Moorish sovereign dollarium. So it would behoove each one of us to, again, the processes that we've been putting forth, they are the foundation of any valid, lawful commercial venture. Okay? And even in a situation like that where you sent the sovereign credit, it was blocked by a corporate entity, and they were unable to receive it because they have outstanding corporate contracts. We can always prove that we sent it, so we remain in honor. We're not held over a barrel for anything. We can always prove our honorability that we sent it. Whether they received it or not is not our issue. It will be their responsibility and their duty. It is their national duty to terminate all corporate contracts so that they can receive. And know this, Moors, it's not even a matter of if, it's a matter of when Moorish sovereign dollarium is conveyed over the systems that are subject to us on our land. That's going to be a hot minute. It's only a matter of, okay, so we must prepare competently for that, okay? We must prepare for that, and that's what all of this is for, and this is another reason why we place all of this on the public record, so that it is known earthwide, and the public record is an earthwide situation. Doesn't matter how many counts they have on, views it has. It's an earthwide proclamation, and it is the law earthwide, so that we know and they know that we know that there's a difference between us in commerce, and that all Moors must. Now, you can't tell Moors what to do, but where this commerce is coming up, the only way to protect commerce in the future is going to be to have a termination of all corporate contracts and a proper status proclamation on the record. That's why we said what we said earlier, because we see it coming. Everyone can see that coming. Okay? So now with regard to this document right here, it's going to give you some definitions. I would encourage you to just look over it. You don't have to do an in-depth 6-week study on the document unless you want to. Just look over the document and note some of the things in there that we need to be paying attention to, okay? Here, call currency means the currency agreed to as such at the time an option is entered into as evidence in a confirmation. We have full authority to choose the currency that we want to use. It must, whatever the currency is that we choose, it must match our sovereign status. Because that's what the Constitution says. Now, let's look here at the word currency. And I'm going to blow this up on the screen and make it bigger so we can see. Here, currency means money denominated in the lawful currency of any country or the ECU. Now, when we put this in red, and we can leave off the ECU if we want to leave off the ECU, but when we put this in red in all lowercase letters, we can edit this word country and put nation. And in fact, we are putting that on the public record right now as a proclamation. It is the law. Currency means money denominated in the lawful currency of any nation, any sovereign nation, any original, indigenous, natural, divine sovereign nation. So let's be clear about that. Okay? A currency obligation means any obligation of a party to deliver a currency. A currency means, what currency did you all pick? Okay, someone deliver that currency. And it's going to be our job to deliver Moorishe sovereign dollarium where our contracts are concerned and our agreements are concerned. Now, key, not one time in this document is the term Federal Reserve note or Federal Reserve debt note mentioned. Not one time in a master document defining currency put out even by them. The Corporate Securities and Exchange Commission, does it ever say United States Federal Reserve debt note or Federal Reserve note? Doesn't say that in here at all. It says currency, and it clearly is saying that there is options there based on who's doing the contract, the contracting. And it says money. Now, currency pair means the two currencies which potentially may be exchanged in connection with the transaction. And here they have FX transaction in capital letters. If we were to put that in red, we would write out the word forex, F-O-R, or we would spell it a different way, F-O-U-R-E-X. Many of you who are in the financial sector or who are familiar with the financial sector are familiar with Forex trading platform, etc. I have kin who are currently using that platform. They're not quite awake yet as to what we're doing. However, yes, they spell it just like Justice Jermore spelled it in the chat, F-O-R-E-X with a capital F. But the expertise of those who are familiar with that platform will be necessary as we continue to do what we're doing, because we will get into currency trading as the other nations who have gold-backed currency connect with us and we connect with them. They are ready. I will say that. They are ready. Our brothers and sisters over at the other Africa, over there, are preparing already with gold-backed currencies. They're getting all of their platforms and systems up. And those platforms, and when I say up, I mean those platforms and systems were originated with them. And it started with them. And it came from them and not from anyone doing business as the Crown or anyone doing business as foreign corporations. Okay. Now let's look here, and this definition that we're going to look at right here is key when we talk about the difference between citizens and subjects and their designation by the heirs on our land. We know that the subjects are designated as custodians by command. By command. The only way that they can be designated as custodians by command in black ink is if they're dealing with debt. Okay? A royal subject in red and all lowercase letters will be a custodian who has a designation based on a credit system, not a debt system. Okay? So look at this definition, custodian. That definition says custodian has the meaning given to it in the definition of insolvency proceedings. They're not even telling you the definition because we assigned that definition. But they're referring to custodians in their insolvency proceeding, and the word we want to look at here is insolvency. Insolvency means debt. If you go back and look at some of the videos we did in the past, we did a video regarding the introduction of the $666 trillion gold-backed sovereign money placed on the public record by the heirs. In that video, we mentioned that we are solvent. We are solvent. Knowing that down the road, insolvency and solvency play a huge part in commerce based on who you're dealing with. Solvent parties cannot contract with insolvent parties. Okay? Think about that. Solvent parties cannot contract with insolvent parties. Why is that? That is because when parties are insolvent, insolvency is a permanent status. It's a permanent setting. Just one moment. Okay, hold for just one moment. Let me pull back up and make sure that we can see what's on the screen. Can you all see what's on the screen there? Or is it still there? Just one moment. Okay, for some reason. Just one moment. Okay. Okay. I want to be sure that we can see. So now, with regard to solvent and insolvent, solvent parties must, if you're solvent, you remain solvent at all times no matter what, okay? We have always been solvent, okay? That's why we say Moors have no debt. We've always been solvent. We've never not been solvent. We've always been the creditor, never not been that, okay? So, sure we can get this on the screen. So when you talk about subjects and solvency and insolvency, that is why we had to terminate all corporate contracts, because at law, the solvent do not contract with the insolvent. It's because they are perpetually insolvent. In other words, they're insolvent into perpetuity. And if proof of that they're insolvent forever, is when you saw them go into quantitative easing and start printing eternal debt, Federal Reserve debt notes. When you saw them go into that status right there, or that state, rather, that is a state of permanent insolvency. Because here's the thing, with every Federal Reserve debt note that they printed in order to get to pay something or some, pay some debt, they were actually creating more debt that had to be paid. So they are in a state, all corpses are in a permanent state of insolvency. And when you go to the European Central Bank, yes, absolutely, Empress Portia. When you go to the European Central Bank and you start looking around on their website, you will see that it is set up for insolvency. It is set up to handle brokenness. Okay? Whereas we had to set ourselves up and set up our own bank, which we all are our own bank. And it had to be set up as the creditor. We had to be set up as the creditor. We had to. So now you have, that is another form of duality, creditor and debtor. Okay, so now in this document, I really just wanted us to take a very general look at the document so that we can see where the use of we can bring our Moorish sovereign dollarium to any transaction. And when Moors asked me, can I do this and can I do that with the Moorish sovereign dollarium, my response is always, can you do that? Are you competent to do it? Then do it. Are you competent to do the demonstration? We are all gaining competency where our own sovereign money is concerned. Okay. And I happen to, just like many of you, I have kin who are very familiar with currency and money, and they've done currency exchange on an international level and all of that. So we have them as consuls, but ultimately, we have to clean up everything that they say, because they can. If I say, well, you know, for example, my brother Sage. Sage is a currency expert. So I can say, Sage, what do we, you know, what is the rule, quote unquote rule, regarding the exchange of currencies where the currencies have different valuations? He'll say, give me a minute, and I'll point you to where you can go and study, go and look it up. And he knows where to go, and he can point me to the general rule. That way we can take that rule that's written in black ink in capital letters, etc. We can take it and put it in red in all lowercase letters, clean it up, because there's always going to be some word in there that needs to be cleaned up or spelled differently. And we can leave the wording the same for the most part, except we spell it in ancient English. That way it means what we intend for it to mean, because as we all know, we can be saying a word that sounds similar to a word that the corporates were using, and they would assign their own meaning to it and then act on their meaning. Okay? So when we spell it the way we spell it in ancient English, or it's those who want to use French spelling of the word, or the Spanish spelling of the word, or whatever spelling you want to use of that word, the Latin spelling of the word, do so. Moors, all languages belong to the Moors. All languages are derived from us. So as you're beginning to move in commerce, and you're setting up the commercial for what your Islam, Justice Geo Islam are. When you're setting up the commercial protocol for how the contracting is going to be done, it is best to, and we'll all design this, we'll design it together. When I say we'll design this affidavit together, we can put it together, and then I can present it, and we can all just edit it according to however we want to edit it. And that way we will agree on how it, how it is effectuated. Or if anyone wants to put together a basic commercial protocol affidavit whereby all commerce that you do must meet these qualifications in order for commerce to go back and forth, I would suggest that we do that. If I were doing it, and we're kind of doing it now, it would have these 4 principles here among other principles. The 4 principles that we talked about, and let me put those principles back up on the screen really quickly as well. The 4 principles that we talked about earlier here, okay? These are commercial principles that we should be always putting forth before you engage in commerce, okay? Now, this document here, I want to look at this portion right here, where in many places throughout this document, they talk about the expression of currency. Okay, here in this at X, and I'm highlighting it on the screen. Let me make sure you can see what I'm highlighting here. Okay, on the screen, I'm highlighting where I want to read a sentence because I want to bring out, again, the importance of expressing in our own national currency. This is talking about default, which has nothing to do with the Moors in terms of money. But it says, by reason of any default or event of default or other similar condition or event, any specified indebtedness being specified indebtedness of an amount which, when expressed in the currency of the threshold amount, and I'll stop right there. And if you want to read the rest of that, you can read the rest of it. The point that I want to make about expression of currency is that gold-backed currency is our national expression. Okay? Gold-backed currency is our national expression. We cannot express ourselves competently in fiat terms. Okay? So, because it is against the Constitution. Okay? Ancient English is a national expression. How is it a national expression, or why? Because so many heirs are using it, and no one can tell the sovereigns what their national expression is. Only the sovereigns determine and dictate that. Okay? Only the sovereigns dictate that, what our national expression is in anything. Our national expression in how we dress, how we speak, how we give commands, the money that we use, the properties that we use, the materials that we use, that is all national expression. And it should always be superior to any other out there. It should always be superior. The thing about, speaking of national expression where ancient English is concerned, the reason ancient English is so superior to corporate English is because corporate English, words that are written in corporate English have one definition and one definition only, as designated by the corpses. The corpses have defined corporate English. And so for anyone to say that we have to use corporate English, they're telling us that we're not sovereign and we can't go outside of that definition. We know their definitions are not specific and precise the way we need them to be. Therefore, we use ancient English as our national expression because it's far more precise than common or corporate English. Far more precise. Why? Because it means what we intend for it to mean. So when you're talking about currency, transactions, okay, here they're talking about a transaction here, a trading transaction. FX transaction means any transaction between the parties for the purchase by one party of an agreed amount in one currency against the sale by it to the other of an agreed amount in another currency. So where currencies are concerned, if we are doing a transaction or an exchange with another sovereign nation, and that sovereign nation has their own national currency, that does not mean that the exchange can't take place or that it has to take place in one currency or the other. It can take place in both currencies as long as there is an exchange rate that's been established prior to the contract. So let's just say, for example, we do a sovereign exchange. We want to do a sovereign exchange with a Moor who domiciles in our territory but they want to do it in their currency from over in the other Africa, let's just say, or Manchuria. Well, that can be done, but we must establish, and the establishment should be as a nation, where we establish on the record the exchange rate and what that exchange rate is. Okay? And I will say this about exchange rate. If it's gold-backed exchange rate, which it always will be with us and with them, then it should be 1-to-1. One more sovereign dollarium to one African dollarium, whatever they call their gold-backed money. It should be 1-to-1, because gold is going to be the same all over the earth where revaluation of gold is concerned. It's 1-to-1. Whatever the price of gold is, then that can be the exchange rate. 1-to-1 based on however 0.001 troy ounces of gold. So if gold is pick a number, 50,000 more sovereign dollarium per ounce, then you would do the math and determine that on a 1-to-1 basis, this is how much gold will be exchanged to make that contract be whatever the contracting parties, the high contracting parties, want it to be. Okay. Someone is discussing stolen gold being repatriated to the original nation state. I see that in an inbox. Believe it or not, that has already taken place. The gold, first of all, never left its sovereign status as a sovereign property of the Moors. The gold never changed. The status of gold never changed. It is we who consented to operate in a status that is not our sovereign status that changed. Meanwhile, the gold still was gold, and it still was a sovereign property, a sovereign item of property for the Moors. It's just that we decided that we were going to do commerce in Federal Reserve debt notes, and we see where that got us. We see where that ended up. So now we've changed that. Now we're doing commerce in more sovereign dollarium. And again, we're in transition more, so as quickly as we can come out of the use of Federal Reserve debt notes, we need to do it. It's a transition. Let's keep moving in that direction. And I will say this, we're moving quickly in the right direction. Okay? We are moving quickly in the right direction. And that will become more evident, just like everything else is becoming evident. All of the things that we've been saying, you know, some Moors kind of got disheartened when you didn't see it right away, but it's here now. And it's going to continue to manifest the commands that we've given in the past. And when I say we, I mean all of us. Okay? And then we can go back and look at the videos from back then and the affidavits that were put on the public record and all the Moors who used the affidavits. We can go back and look at those videos and look at the commands that we gave and say, okay, this command has been fulfilled. Okay, this command has been fulfilled. This has been done. This has been done. I mean, I can look back now and see where the things that we were saying have a lot of what we said has manifested. A lot has not yet manifested, but is in the process of manifesting. Okay, so And the manifestation and the quickness of it, or the pace of it, depends solely on us. It doesn't have anything to do with anyone else. The pace of the manifestation of the things that we have commanded has everything to do with us and no one else. So are there any questions or comments with regard to what we have discussed here? Just one moment.
Islam. Tanui Kuala Bay. Can you hear me?
Islam. Yes. Hopefully, yes. Are you? And hopefully, what you have to say is about the subject matter here. Hopefully, Islam.
Yes. I was just wondering. I was just wondering, once the delirium is being exposed against the international currency and all the stuff that you were talking about, and that you were going to get it, try to get it where the gold is backing the currency, and that you're going to take it out of the United States Service Corporation's hands. Will that? Do you think that'll start a war?
It hasn't. All of those things are done already, and it hasn't started one. It's actually going to make things more peaceful. First and foremost,
because nobody's using the money.
The dollarium, the
nobody's using your dollarium.
Came from just one moment more. The money, the dollarium, originated with us, so we didn't have to take it out of the hands of anyone. That's key. We're not snatching anything from anybody in terms of the dollarium. We're not snatching anything from anybody. We're just taking hold of what's rightfully ours. And the fact that the dollarium originated with the true heir says that it's already backed by gold, because guess what? We're the gold.
Why aren't you using it in grocery stores,
you see what
Pauline?
I'm saying?
Use it in the grocery.
Yeah, somebody cut in.
Yeah.
Somebody cut in on you.
I heard what he said. I heard what he said. I'm going to address that too. So, because this is where we're going. Now, even though a hybrid said that, the hybrids, those are, to me, from my perspective, those questions coming from the Moors are valid questions. But they have to come from the Moors, not a hybrid. So, the money, back to the original question that was asked, and then we'll get to that one. The money originated with us. Remember that the fiat only had value because we were using it. That's the only thing that gave the fiat any value, is that the heirs were using it and had not properly rebutted it with our own money, gold-backed money. Let me say this too, and I'm gonna mute you just a little bit because there's a lot of static coming from your line there, Nobility. But *6 to unmute yourself whenever you want to speak. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So because the money originated with us, we didn't have to take it from anyone's hands, and we had to properly rebut fake money on our land. Fiat is fake. We've all been saying it. Back in 1933, there was a House Joint Resolution that said there's no money, right? So with regard to the resources that are out there belong to us too. Again, gold never left its sovereign property as property of the Moors. We're the ones who are said to have abandoned our estate. We didn't abandon it. We've always been here. Okay? So there's no reason to war. We're not taking anything that doesn't belong to us already. Right? Everything already belongs to us, including the subject. Right? Is that
okay?
Okay. In order to answer that question properly, we have to know who we are. So how do we answer all questions? We answer all questions by establishing identities. Who is it that would start a war? Because we're saying who we are. Who is it that would do that? Who is it that would attempt to do that? Because it's not going to happen.
Would it be the de facto government?
They're not a government. Identity, identity, identity. Who are the parties? They're not the government. We are. So why would we war with a bunch of subjects and citizens? There's no need for that. To be honest with you, truthfully, and we're truthful all the time, but I want to emphasize this. We've been at war whenever we use a nom de guerre. That's why it's called a war name. Right?
Correct.
So we're the ones who have the ability to war or not war. No one else can declare that. Only the Congress, the people can. Yes, Justice Dearmore, that's good what you put there. Because I want to emphasize that too. Nobility, I am honored by your question and I appreciate your question. I do want to point a couple of things out with regard to the perspective of the question. Okay, and I'm going to mute you one more time because there is I don't know about anyone else, but there is a lot of static coming from your line. Okay. The perspective of your question and the way that the question was worded, I want to ensure that you are aware that you're not waiting for me or anyone else to do the things that are already done. Those things are already done. Just by reason of us using our own money says that we are taking, everything that's ours is ours. We have the authority to do that. Had we been printing money that we didn't have the right to print, the doors would be kicked in already. And that's because we said if anyone goes outside of capitalism and they're not us, then kick the door in. We said that. We told the subjects to do that. So we're not, the Moors, and this is what I love about the Moors, is particularly, and I'm going to be a little bit biased, particularly the Moors who hear these calls and the Moors who regularly listen to the things that we suggest and the things that we put forth and the laws that we put on the public record. And when I say we, I mean all of us. Okay? And the Moors who attend these calls, is you're competent to know that the sovereignty and anything that's happening has everything to do with you and what you demonstrate. So no one is waiting for, let's just say, no one's waiting for light tajiri Bey to do anything. It's the Moors the sovereigns just do what they do. They demonstrate their sovereign status. Do we provide assistance? Yes, we do. We provide assistance. Okay. But the taking of resources and all of that, we're not really taking them. In fact, we're not taking them at all. We're just controlling what's already been ours. Just like with the Dred Scott decision, Dred Scott was a Moor. He didn't know he was a Moor, but he was a Moor. All of the resources already belonged to him. But they were saying even back then that if you, the sovereign, does not know that you are the currency controller and that you're the sovereign who everything already belongs to, if you insist on being a citizen, then we have to treat you like a citizen because you're sovereign. You can tell us to do that. By your consent. All Moors are the treasury. Know that. All Moors are the bank. Know that. Anything that I have done, you can do it too. It doesn't even matter what it is. All of the laws and the proclamations and things that we expand on here, they're already set in stone and they already belong to all sovereigns. Now, we have found that when we all speak with one voice, that it adds more strength to what we're doing. If I was the only one using more sovereign delarium, then I'm sovereign. I can do that, but it has far more strength, not more validity, but more strength, because so many of us are using it. And we want to take this time to thank all of the Moors who have sent more sovereign delarium and who continue to send more sovereign delarium to us by email. If you have not received your more sovereign delarium, plug, let me make sure that please text me. And to those who have texted me over the last few days, I've gotten all of the text messages, and I'm going through them and adding you to the list so that we can get the delarium to you. You'll have it within 3 days from today, okay? So those who have sent me text messages saying you want delarium, I hear you, I get it, and you will get it. It is an honor and a joy to send it to you, so that you can then send back 300 to us for all the work that we do. That is how we do what we do. That's where we get our energy from. So for those who want to send a text message to receive delarium, please text me directly, because this is my direct text number, 334-294-9828, and I will send you the more sovereign delarium within a few days of your text. Okay, we're getting through them and the emails as quickly as we can. Okay, thank you so much for those who have sent it already. I can't even express how excited we are to receive it. We're honored to receive it as well. The divinity in us honors the divinity in you. So that is proof that we are speaking with one voice, and our strength is there. I'm telling you, the reason you're seeing the changes that you're seeing is because we're speaking with one voice. We're using one currency. We're all writing in red and all lowercase letters, etc. Okay, and at the thing that we showed at the beginning of this call is further proof that they're saying, okay, the sovereigns are speaking with one voice. Let's make that known, that we know we're citizens, them. They know they're citizens. We know we're the sovereigns. Let's keep moving. Are there any other questions or comments? Nobility, hopefully that answers your question about whether there's going to be this big war. In reality, it's been war ever since we used nom de guerre. That is a war action. Anytime Moors are attempting to use black ink and capital letters, you're infringing, so to speak, on a corporate trademark. Just go and look at U.S. Trademark and Patent Office protocols. Just go look at it, and you will see. Yes, in the chat, Justice Theodore, the Spanish Inquisition never ended until now. It's a wrap. We got this. Period. Just one moment. Okay, he can come in, Nobility Islam. Are there any other questions? Yes, we got this. Are there any other questions or comments with regard to the sovereign delarium or any other thing? Oh, I want to answer the question that the hybrid put in there, but I'm not answering his question. I'm answering the question as I'm responding to the heirs who have the same question about how come you're not using your delarium at the grocery store, Pauline? That was the question that we heard. So it's only a matter of time. That's the answer. It's only a matter of time. That's number one. What we're doing is so much is just one moment. Nobility, did we answer your question, Nobility, Justice Tuani, about the war? Hopefully we answered it completely.
Yes, you did. Tajiri Lebe, yes, you did.
Islam, thank you, Nobility. Can we expand any further for you?
I'm quite still early in my studies, and I'm just now picking up on a lot of the information, and so I'm looking at your website, and I'm getting familiar with things.
Islam. And I'll say this about the website. The moorisheamericanconsulate.org website is not a website that I'm particularly, like, I don't have a hands-on action, I don't have hands-on with that website. It's being run by Empress Sharon, Tracy Gale Bay, and some of the other Moors there, and we honor them. Some of the documents are still in black ink and capital letters, but Moors, it's okay because you can take those documents and put them in red and all lowercase letters and put them on the public record, okay? The documents, and I'll say this about those documents, just one moment. I'll say this about those documents. Many of the documents on the Moorish American Consulate Public Records website were authored by us. And when I say us, I mean generally they originated with me, and then I took them to the judiciary, the sovereign judiciary.
When are you going to take over First Avenue, Pauline? What about First Avenue? What's taking?
And generally those documents were, I would write them and then take them to the judiciary, and we would go through them word by word. And so the documents are competent documents. You do want to put them in red and all lowercase letters. And here's the thing, every document that's ever been put out there has been one where those documents should be edited according to by the Moors, according to whatever it is that we're demonstrating. Okay? That's why we put them out there. We put them out there as a starting point for your study. The same way that when we first nationalized, we went to R.V. Bey Publications, and a lot of those documents Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey wrote. So we just took them. We're so grateful for them. We just took them, we studied them, and then, I was inspired by the ancestral energies within me to write them, write some documents myself, and then we started sharing the documents freely based on our study and saying, hey, this is what I found in my study. Take this and then do your own study and make it your document. And I will say that the Sovereign Supreme Judiciary And I don't want to miss anybody by starting to call sovereign appellations, but most of you know the consular post heads and those who are doing that work, they were key and instrumental in all of that. Key and instrumental. Empress Josiah, Justice Giacomo, just many from the very beginning. And then, you know, the judiciary has changed and morphed over the years, but, you know, just instrumental. Justice Abbasi, many others, instrumental in all that we put out there. And then, you know, the Moors have taken it and run with it and done their demonstrations, and many, many, many Moors are seeing pure success with what they're doing. Others are seeing where, okay, the demonstration didn't turn out the way I wanted it to turn out, so I got to go back and do some more study and see what, you know, and sometimes Moors will send me documents, and sometimes I have time to review them, and sometimes I don't. They will send documents and say, look at this and see what happened. And we're always able to point out, you know, sometimes they'll use corporate terms, or sometimes they'll, you know, but it's okay, because then when it's put back, you know, through the study, the documents become sharper and sharper. And I will say this, all Moors that I've ever seen and met and collaborated with who were doing documents, the more documents they did, the better they got, period, and quickly. So I would encourage all Moors to take the documents that you see and just practice. Go to moorisheamericanconsulate.org website and take the documents that you see and practice rearranging them and going into the dictionary, looking at words and putting everything in red and all lowercase letters. Go there and get some of that stuff off. So that's good. It quotes the law repeatedly, and you can use all of that information there. Okay? And then if you see something that doesn't sit well in your spirit, take it out. Take it out and put in what your study has told you to put in there. And that goes for anything that we put out there. Okay? And with regard to the grocery store piece, back to the grocery store. When we lien the grocery store, okay, the corporate covering must come off of all resources. The corporate covering must come off of all resources. So lien the grocery store. Do a court action on them. And then when we do the court action on the grocery store, then we state that more sovereign dollarium, just like we're pointing out here, that the currency with which we're going to be doing business with our resources on our land is more sovereign dollarium. Now, the initial topic that I had for today, I postponed it because when I bring that topic forth, and it's going to be more of this, and it's going to be even more in-depth on exactly how that all the systems are going to have to accept more sovereign dollarium. Yes, Justice Giacomo in the chat. Change what you will. Yes, be very aware to keep it lawful with all changes. Yes, yes. And that's why we say study, study, study. Get in that dictionary and the law dictionaries, and use as many law dictionaries as you choose. The older, the better. And yes, Justice Theodore, thank you for that. There are documents under, the most recent documents in red and all lowercase letters will be under this video. And then go back and look under some of the other videos at Light Tajiri Bay channel on YouTube, so that you can pull the documents off, and even those, we put them in editable format. Because I got some information where some Moors were pulling documents off of Moorish American Consulate websites, and they weren't able to edit the documents. The documents that are under the videos are in Word. They were created in WordPad. So when you pull them off, even depending on the operating system that you have, some of the like the flags and things may come off the document, maybe. And in other cases, if you have a matching operating system, then you'll have even less editing to do as you choose. But you can edit. They're made so that you pull them off and you can edit them and use them. And they're done on 8.5 by 14 paper. Okay, lawful legal paper. So, but with regard to the grocery stores, it's just a matter of time. It's some things we have to say and do in order for that to be the case. Now, I will say this. Any place that Moorishe sovereign delarium is accepted, we're going to have a Moor posted there working who accepts Moorishe sovereign delarium. As this transition takes place, that's going to provide jobs for the Moors and everything. And that goes for everywhere that Moorishe sovereign delarium is accepted. That's how the hybrids did it way back in when they first introduced Federal Reserve notes. Is before they had their own grocery stores, before we allowed them to have their own grocery stores on our land, or before we allowed them to start using resources like that, there was a transitionary period where the Moors had the businesses going, and we would allow the subjects to begin operating in those businesses one register that accepted their form of money or form of money. And initially, U.S. dollars were gold denominated. They were gold backed. That's the only way we let that happen, because they couldn't come into our businesses with fiat. We had
Grand failure, moops.
okay. So
Grand failure,
I got booted off for just a moment, but so as I was stating, when the transition happened previously, yes, when the transition happened previously, initially they were using gold-backed money, okay, gold coins, gold dollars, etc. And then as more of them came, we backed off, and then after a while we stepped back and just began to govern that way, okay? And so when we were governing that way, then fiat came into place. The corporate status came in and started corrupting everything, okay? But the corporate status couldn't even be established if we had not consented to that either. So with regard to grocery stores, it's only a matter of us doing the demonstration competently. That's all it takes, is for us to demonstrate that competently, and they will take Moorishe sovereign delarium. Okay? Because it's the Constitution. It's constitutional money. And then, even still, the only reason we would even be going to the grocery store is because we have not yet set up our own because that's where all of this is going, is we're going to kind of camelback off of the republic and step into our own everything. That's what all of this is all about, okay, is camelbacking off the republic and bringing forth our own, doing everything with regard to economic, anything that has to do with gold-backed economy ourselves. So even at the post office, because we will have a presence at the post office shortly, but we first had to pronounce and proclaim that our post office is active in its pure form first, okay? And then we keep it pure by using our own money, so that as we begin the process of camelbacking off of the republic, that we stay pure and don't contract with corpses or anything like that. But see, everything now is republic, the republic, because we stand. And proof of that is, you know, if you want just minor basic proof, if you can't see any proof, just think about what I showed at the beginning of this call, okay? They're getting in citizen status, and they're proving that, okay, we know we're the citizens, because we know that you know who you are now. So where we're going now, every operation that's happening on our land will have to have a Moor who has no corporate contract in it, or at it, not in it, but at it, so that we can be using our money to get whatever good and service it is that's being tributed on our land. So we will start with one more at the post office, and one more at the grocery store, and one more, but the Moors who are doing these things, number one, we will be you know, all Moors are, have the sovereign jurisdiction in commerce. Okay? So that is how all of this is going to be taking place, and we're going to introduce in the next, maybe by Sunday, if I'm given the go ahead by the ancestral energy, to put the plan out there, the strategy out there that we must implement in order to continue to make this happen. And the only reason I say that they wouldn't give me permission is if I haven't fully prepared it the way it should be. So that's all on in terms of preparation of the strategy. But again, I'm not the only one getting the strategy. Other Moors are getting the strategy as well. And things are already moved into place, but the strategy needs to be put in writing, put forth before the nation, which is you all, and then we all, by our actions, consent or agree that that's the strategy. And then we continue to become far more competent at all that we're doing by having, sharing information like what we shared today. Okay, but it would be as if that is how the money system has to change. It's already changed, okay, because we're already using gold-backed sovereign denarium. We're already using it. But in order to, we don't want to just do it just for us. We want all Moors to be able to use it to get the things that they need. So in order to get the things that they need, we're going to have to start posting more at these places, and we have a strategy for that. So don't, you know, it's not like the ancestors haven't shown us how to do that. Some Moors are already in place, other Moors are getting in place, and some will place themselves there at the appointed time. There is a process and a protocol to it, and we're going to implement that immediately. So it has to be done, and this is how it's going to be done. You know, and when I say this is how it's going to be done, I mean this is what the strategy says it should be done, based on looking back in history and seeing how the hybrids were able to, you know, get in to the systems, and all of a sudden we got, you know, fiat everywhere and hybrids everywhere. How did that happen? Well, it happened by just one step at a time, and nobody rebutted it. Well, these are peace moves, so there's no reason for anyone to, you know, the hybrids to be like, oh, we don't want the more sovereign delarium. No, they need to be free too. So if you'll notice, when the hybrids, you know, come on the call, they never say we don't want that. They never say that. They just say, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? I don't see you using your delarium. Okay, we're using it. We're just not giving it to you. Now, a question came in the chat, and this will be the last thing that we note before we conclude the call. There was a question put in the chat about how, let me go back to the question because it's a good question. Let's see. That question was about, why are you counting the money in our, that question is not what I thought it was. I thought that someone was asking, why would we be giving the hybrids more sovereign delarium? They're going to, when they're in subject status, they have our nature. That's what naturalization is. We designate our nature to them. That's what naturalization is. We're not delegating sovereign authority. We're not doing that. We're delegating our nature so that they can operate along with us, okay, but in their proper status, as we are in our proper status. So we're not giving corpses anything except a lien, a court action, and a decapitation. That's what we give corpses. And again, corpses and corporations do not come from anyone's womb. So we're not talking about hurting people, the living, breathing people. Okay? We don't hurt our creation. Okay? Are there any other questions, comments, or wisdom that you'd like to share with regard to our discussion today? Please take a look at this document that we put forth today. And again, we did place the link to it in the chat so that we can see, so that we can know the meanings of these words, and then be able to edit the meaning of the word to mean what we want it to mean. Okay, and I'll say this, Justice Olongo, with regard to what you put in the chat. We're whatever we say we are. We're whoever we say we are. If we say that we're the Romans and we're the Roman Pontiff, we're just saying we're that in red and all lowercase letters. We're an original indigenous Roman Pontiff. If we say we're Americans and we spell it 30 different ways, if it's in red and all lowercase letters, that is our mark. That's our trademark, so to speak. And trade is spelled differently from the way the hybrids spell it because it is a sovereign action. We can call ourselves Americans if we want to call ourselves Americans. Because when we speak, we're speaking ancient English. It's in red and all lowercase letters. See, again, that deludes to what I was stating earlier about the definitions of words. If we're using words in corporate English, they're very inflexible and they're not precise. Very inflexible. Corporate English is very inflexible. And it only means what the corpses say it means. Whereas we don't even speak corporate English, we speak ancient English. And when we speak ancient English is an intentional language. It's intentional. It is defined by our intention. So even when we say currency, because I've seen some things out there on the public record saying currency is a feudal word, currency in red and all lowercase letters means exactly what the heirs say it means, and we can spell it 30 different ways and it still means what we intend, because that's what sovereign status is. And here is, and I'll say this and then I'll close, the word citizen. In red and all lowercase letters, if the sovereigns say they're citizens in red and all lowercase letters, that means that you are a universal citizen. That means you're a citizen whether you're here or on Mars. So it doesn't have anything to do with a corporation. Nothing to do with a corporation or putting yourself under anyone else's authority. When we say citizen, okay, and I don't use the term for us because it has a lot of connotations that have been assigned to it that are not valid. Okay, it has a lot of connotations that it's too much where these corpses are concerned. Okay, but if the corpses were not here, or I'm sorry, if the subjects were not here, then we would be all a society of citizens that is a nation and a government together, and we're doing things together. We are obligated to be honorable to one another, and that obligation stands even today. You know, but I don't use the term citizen unless I'm talking about the subjects right now, just because we're transitioning. But as this transition becomes more complete, the terminology that we use won't matter, because there won't be anyone to be confused about. Everyone will be exactly in their proper place and all of that. But right now we know some more are dealing with the corpses and corporations and all of that stuff, and likewise. Are there any other questions, comments, etc.? Okay. With that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs, and we will see you all.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising. Grand elevation.
Grand rising. Peace and love.
Islam.
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 Peace and love.
Islam. Peace and love, Ventus.
Peace and love.
Islam.
Peace.
Peace and love, Morris.
Islam.
Peace and love.
Sister, could you provide